Do you know this man, Osmo Wiyo? You know? He's a professor from Finland, and he famously said, communication usually fails, except by accident. It's beautiful. The interesting thing is that maybe, perhaps he didn't really mean that, and still that's what we understand. Or maybe he did mean that, and we take it as a joke, and it still proves the point. That's genius. Now imagine you're joining a new software development project, and you're going to deal with domain experts. So you come and see them. Hi, Mr. Domain Expert or Mrs. Domain Expert. Please tell us everything that we need to know to build the software. And the answer is like, hi, kid, I don't have time for that. And I've sent everything I want by email already. Fail. And scary. You feel that in your projects? It could be worse. Imagine you're asking, please, tell us everything we need to know to build this software. And the answer could be, oh, yeah, I want this red button to insert data into this table, and that's scary, frightening. And it gets worse. You know, my brain has limited capacity, and people are people, and businesses are complex or completed, whatever. And but anyway, there is some hope. A while ago, in a large French bank, I don't know why, everywhere I go, there are people talking about DDD all around. So we were doing a DDD book club at lunch every week. And in one of these sessions, after discussions, some of my colleagues were very, very surprised. They were saying like, hey, so you mean talking to domain experts is a thing now? You could learn that? That's the point of this talk, actually. I want to share with you some practices, some heuristics, some tricks that may help you do that better. Just after the break. That's my promise. So now for the break, my name is Cyrille. Follow me on Twitter at Cyrieux. I'm the founder of the Paris Software Craftsmanship community. We meet every month to become better professionals with hands-on open spaces and some practice too. And I'm also the co-founder of a company called Arola. We are all passionate in everything DD. All right, that's for the congratulations, now we are back in our project. And you have this honor to meet your domain experts now. And that's how you feel usually. Oh. Talking to domain experts, why is it so hard? Actually, we usually don't talk the same language. And also, they don't have time for us. That's why you say usually. It's interesting that very often, the more expertise you have, the less time you have. Which means that every time their time is precious. Domain experts, their time is very precious. And every time you meet them, you don't want to waste their time. Which means that before coming to see them, you don't want to go naked. You have to learn some knowledge prior to seeing them. And for that, it all starts with curiosity and genuine curiosity. Because without this curiosity, you won't be able to do a good job. As they would say in South Park, without curiosity, genuine curiosity, you will have a bad time. So my brain has a limited capacity, so I need to learn this domain at my own pace. I need some time to that. And luckily, I have a lot of available documentations available everywhere, on the internet, on books, Wikipedia, Investopedia for finance, Google, and some books too. Every domain has a Bible, a book Bible. And you have to find it and read it as early as possible. Also, there are many information available anywhere, like Oasis, XML formats, schemas. And there is an XML schema for everything. If you are in the election business, you have that. If you are in the voting, court ruling, fillings systems, you get that already available as XML schema and books and all these things. Of course, don't take that for granted as the truth. It's just inspirations, words, potential questions, ideas, inspirations, and of course, it's a domain overview, which is what you are looking for at this time. And with all this prior knowledge in your head, now you can come and see the domain expert and say, hi, domain expert. First, I'd like to know better what is an insurance contract or an insurance policy, how that work. Not just what it is, how they work. And so you get better answers like, OK, so it all starts with, and blah, 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 blah. Now we have a conversation. Now we are ready. Now we are on track. Much better already. So actually, every time I go to conference, I ask people that we call thought leaders what they think about curiosity for their domains, and they tell me that, yes, every time they join a project, they become very curious about that domain for the time of the project, at least, or even more. So yes, successful people do that, and you won't imagine, you won't believe how it can help you too. All right, so now, next, my brain has limited capacity, again, and so I need to write things to remember, which means I need to take notes like a pro. So for instance, let's imagine you listen to this domain expert saying that. And this is what you write on your notepad. You see the things? Ah, this is not what he said. You already lost an opportunity for learning. You already lost knowledge. That's bad. Actually, he says the visitor, not the user, it was requests, not asks, and it was not just a quote, but an insurance quote. So the first thing I'd like to emphasize as a technique is to pay attention carefully to the words themselves as they were said. Don't translate. Don't distort. Keep the word as it was. And this is basically, I need to, and that's what I do, to listen actively as a job, as an activity in itself. And it turns out that it's very hard to do. Try yourself on Monday, you should try, and you'll find out that, wow, yeah, no, I don't know how to do that. I listen to answer, or I listen to jump to the conclusion. I don't really listen this way. So you may turn that into a game, and I call that a word safari. The game is to chase the new words in the sentences. So basically, it's like something like that. The trader makes a deal. So you take notes, deal. Oh, that's a new word. I underline. That's my own notation. And then as soon as I have some opportunity to ask a question, I ask the definition of this word. Very simple. Sometime later, the conversation goes on to, and then the train is booked into a particular portfolio. I write down, notice it was trade now. Oh, another new word. And to me, deal and trade are the same thing. Maybe they are the same for you. So I see synonyms, and synonyms is, it's a reflex. I need to dig deeper. You talked about deal and trade as if they were the same thing. Is there any difference? And now we are digging. Now we are talking and learning some useful stuff because this difference may hint at different perspective, different bounded context, or it just doesn't make sense, and we have to find one word and make it into your ubiquitous language. So at this point, you may say, this is just simple tricks and things like that. No, that's important. Attention to language is very central to domain-driven design. That's domain-driven design in essence, in action. So let's move on now. So we go on more sentences, on execution, Oh, a new word, execution. So I'm going to ask questions now, and I will say, you're talking about orders and execution. So I know that an order is like a request to trade, but what about the execution? You see what I did here? I know that something. I've been just showing my knowledge and my interest for the domain. Because what I want at this point in the conversation, I want to establish some credibility for myself. I'm a developer. They are business people. I don't start with much credibility at the beginning. I have to build that. So simple ways to build your credibility is to show your curiosity, your interest, the small knowledge that you have, and to ask better questions and to improve your question over time, and also to challenge the domain expert respectfully, but to challenge them, not to say, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right all the time. So talking to people in general, not just domain experts, is something very hard to do. We use law and all these things. But there's an antidote. The antidote is called interactive conversation. And the key word here is on interactive. Interactive means you have control. You control the next question. You control what you say. Which means it's all about steering our conversations in real time while you're talking. Of course, it starts with simple things like don't interrupt, keep your questions for later. which means that you also need your own syntax on paper to not forget things. So for instance, you've seen I underline to say, oh, it's a new word I need to ask definition for. Or I have some questions, I need to check that. And I put everything I think during the conversations, I take note too, but within brackets to say it's my words, it's not their words. And if it's not clear, I put an underline with some wavy line. And question for later, yes, Q and my question. So next time, and then in real life, and I also use many tricks from the tester community. You know, you should really have a look at everything Katrina and James are writing in the testing community. It will be good for you in general, but it's also good for heuristics to take notes and discover a domain quickly, discover a software quickly. And mind mapping, for instance, is one of these techniques. And then, during the conversation, you scan your notes, and you decide where I want the conversations to go to next. Basically, you are navigating your conversations. This is something deliberate. It's not something that just happens. So imagine you have taken notes like that in a bit of text and some links between the text, like very trivial mind mapping. Now you have different options. And Michal, I can't pronounce his name, but this Michal with a link, he's writing a book on that, on how to deal with conversations. So you may want to have a look at that. And so as he says, you can navigate up, down, or on the side. You have different directions. You can evolve the conversations, different directions for the conversation. The first direction is going up, summarizing, or looking for the intent. That's very important. And of course, the key question there is why. And usually you ask why more than once. So, for instance, you may know this little anecdote. Yeah, we need a print button on the screen. So you ask, why? Next time we will make it. OK, so let me check the user. OK, this maybe not be a domain expert after all. All right, so sometime later, they need to send printouts to the other department. So this time you say, why? Thank you very much. And it turns out that the answer is that. The other department needs the printed paper to key in back into another system. What the fuck? So, of course, you can save time with starting the conversation with the goal. What's the goal? Asking directly that so that you can anchor the conversation on the right direction and start on the right track. Otherwise, as usual, you will have to reverse engineer the true need from the express solution that they said. That everybody's talking solutions. You have to rewind. You have to challenge everything, and I love this picture. Question everything. Why? So I expect you to challenge me later. But if you go too far, you run the risk to have this kind of reaction. So we can go up, we can also go down. And whenever we go down, we need to go into the details, the concrete. And it's a very important thing to do. And of course, the important question there is an example. Give me an example. Give me an example. That's the magic question. So for instance, Brian Marick was giving this kind of stickers. And I suggest you, if you don't have the reflex to ask questions all the time, please use this kind of cards, concrete example cards. And the way I like to phrase it is start with consensus. I think we all agree, yeah, everything's fine, we understand each other very well. But just to be sure, just in case, we should do a concrete example. And then, of course, we are entering BDD, behavior-driven development, which is our best friend in this work. So you don't have to follow this template or whatever, but still, we are in BDD. BDD can help a lot. The goal, of course, is to discover as early as possible what could happen, everything that is a surprise, and Liz yesterday talks about that very well. The key thing, and what I want to emphasize, is that asking for concrete examples doesn't come that easy. People believe that talking abstract is faster because, of course, it's more concise. Yet, all the details will come back and bite you, and it will not be faster. You have to spend the time right now to be slow in order to be fast overall. Concrete examples are not just scenarios. What I always want is to ask for sample documents. If you are in finance or in construction, you want this to have these contracts, construction contracts, financial contracts, term sheets. You want to see some of them printed off paper or on PDFs that you can read by yourself to find out everything that they forgot to tell you right now. And it can save your life. So basically, every time I ask for these samples, it's very hard, it's very tough. They don't want to chase, to look for, they don't want to spend time on that. So I have to insist and insist until I got it. Okay, so up, down, and next we can go to the side of the conversation, like trying to find the breadth of the domain and or what we have to do. And one way to do it, for instance, is just you listen carefully and you notice they say something like blah, 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 shopping cart, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, this doesn't apply for the marketplace. Blah, 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 shopping cart, marketplace? I never heard that before. Donc I take note of the side remark, and it turns out, just after, that the marketplace is the big part of everything we'll have to deal with. That's the big part of the iceberg. Okay, so at this point, you may say, Cyrille, everything is well and nice, but in real life, for me, in my experience, it's not that easy. And you're right. In real life, I call it the domain expert delusion. What we have in mind at this time is, and what you expect usually is that the domain expert be like this. And in fact, it's more like that. Yes, cruel word. And it's not easy to know in advance. A domain expert is not printed, I'm good or I'm bad. And you know, even in real life, domain experts may be very bad, even in cargo shipping domains. I found out that the worst domain experts were the ones who got their expertise from a legacy system, from an existing system. And they know every intricacy of it, but this is not domain knowledge. In a sense, it's system knowledge. And you won't do a good job of DDD with that. On the other hand, the best domain experts, they had skin in the game. They cried, and they were happy with their domain. For instance, they got a lot of money, they made a lot of money, or they lose money, and they still have emotions when they talk about it. So the ideal domain expert was a former guy in the field, on the field, doing the job. So usually, our domain experts are not that good. So it's up to us to help, and we can help. You know this word, empathy? Usually, when we think about it, we mean put yourself into their shoes. And we mean it figuratively. What I want to propose right now is that you can also do it literally, or more literally. And what we want is to stop behaving like this, like, I'm begging you to tell me everything I need to know, Mr. Domain Expert, into, no, we want to stop that. What I want instead is to build constructive partnerships, two-way partnerships with them. And there is an easy way to start to do that, suggested by this man. You know this man, Ward Cunningham, himself, the Ward Cunningham. And he's famous for that too. If you want to know something, don't ask for the answer. Post a wrong answer on the internet and let the internet correct you. That's very efficient as a technique. So the techniques I propose is just propose as a tactic. Don't start from a blank page. Start with something. Propose something. And of course, you don't have to be right. You don't have to be complete. You'll be totally wrong. Do your best anyway. You still have your credibility to manage. But you can be wrong, and then the domain expert will be very happy to correct you. So first, I took an example from Liz Keogh and her writing. You should really have a look at everything Liz is writing. So she gave this example of conversations. This is what we are supposed to say to start, to anchor, to start the conversation, to start the questions. When we are in this case, and when we go to check out the basket, what should I see on the screen? Oh yeah, I see, shipping is free. All right, now we got the answer. We got it totally. Oh. Oh. Okay, this one. This picture, he doesn't like this picture. Okay, but anyway, it was just the scenario written as a BDD template using the Gherkin template, not the BDD template. So okay, our interview now, our interview is done for today. Now we're gonna see you tomorrow for next. So now we are back into our code. We can start coding, and so I'm assuming we are doing a spike right now. We are still at the early stages. We want to discover our domain. So we'll jump into code and start coding our understanding. So imagine our domain is the domain of singing kittens. At random. So you want to write code just like you would take notes, but in Java or C#. And it would look something like this. We have a concept of kitten. We have a concept of the attitude, because in rock, attitude is everything, you know. We have the concept of a microphone, of playback, of singing. And when you run that, you expect something. It has to behave. It will say, it will write on the console or spit something like, mew, mew, mew. You want something that runs, that tells you, that gives you feedback when it runs. That's very important. Because my brain has limited capacity, I need executable code in order to see what I missed, what I forgot, what I got wrong, to detect contradictions. I need code to find out better questions for next time. I need code to show everything I did wrong. So this is something Greg Young called code analysis, and I learned a lot from that. So this was a talk at SkillsMatter long ago. So basically what we are doing we are cycling, talking with the domain experts for a short period of time, and then going back to work with our notes and our code, and learning from both, and finding new problems. And also, you know, my brain has limited capacity. I need to sleep and to think back a bit, to step back to learn it better and to discover insights. So basically, well, we are cycling, but we are progressing deeper and deeper, day by day. And I think this is very close to what Eric Evans is calling the DDD wire pool process. You may find that on Domain Language website. All right, at this point, you may also ask, why bother that much? Because our domain is like that. It's a lot of complexity hidden behind the wall. You can't see through. And you think, oh, it should be fine. And then, so what we want is you can't ignore the domain complexity, because you can ignore it, but it won't ignore you. You will discover it later. The good thing is we want to discover it as early as possible. And what we want to do is what Dan North is calling deliberate discovery. We need this kind of mental tools, like a ladder, to go through, to go and see what's next. So actually, to be honest, you not necessarily need a ladder. You could also go on the side, you know. And once we can discover the knowledge earlier, it's cool. All right, so you know, you are all domain experts too in many things. Like, no, okay. So now it's time for the obligatory exercise for the audience, because it's a keynote now. So I will ask you to do something, basically. And because you're all domain experts too, you are all domain experts in pants. You all have, very often, you had pants on. So you know what it is. You know them quite well, pants. It's a very common thing. You are all very familiar with them. You are domain experts on that. So what I'm asking you to do is, for 2 minutes, with the guy or girl next to you, give a clear definition of what are pants. That's a very simple thing, right? 2 minutes, let's go. So you all got a clear definition of pants? Was it easy? It wasn't that easy. Actually, what the point I'm trying to make right now, that I want to emphasize, is that even though you know quite well what they are, you don't have a formal model of it. It's all tacit on your head. You have a mental model that is made of many, many different things, and it's complex, actually. It's very complex, the mental model. So one way, so now we want, every time we try to model into software, we have to turn the tacit into the concrete formal that even a computer can understand. And we need some help for that too. And I suggest things like, imagine doing thought experiments, like, what if we change something? We need more examples. So for instance, what if we had pens for dogs? You know, you've seen that on Twitter? And so it's been there's been discussions and debates and trolls all the time, all over again. And then, I guess, these girls had the answer. Oh, you idiots, it's to cover the ass, obviously. Oh, you're sure? I found a counterexample. Is it really to cover the ass? So OK, I fixed the question. So now it's to cover the ass. Would we do it like this or like that? Not sure. And by the way, AT&T have no ass. How would they wear pants? Does your model answers that? I'm not sure. All right, so another guy on Twitter was saying, like, it's easy, it's to cover the legs, of course. How many of you had this kind of answer? Cover the legs, OK? Yeah, of course, that's a common thing to think. But if it was a book, how would you put pants on it? And it's to cover legs, really? What about tardigrades? How would they wear pants? You know, this is challenging your mental model. Your definition is very challenged by these kind of things. Will it be the top, every leg, but the top two, or the last? Or OK, you see what I mean. But actually, a deep model of what pants are would answer all these kind of new situations. Of course, it's a totally stupid example, and I don't even have the answer. But you see what I mean. All right, so maybe we have some more techniques to help discover the domain. Overall, a lot of techniques are just part of your toolbox, and you have your own toolbox. And in my toolbox, I have a lot of analysis patterns from Martin Fowler, all patterns from Eric, of course. I have also mathematical backgrounds, including monoids. Who knows monoids? Huh? And all this knowledge is good investment, and during the conversations, they will hint at possibilities. And so during the conversations, if I know what a monoid is, I will try to check if maybe right now we are talking something that could be made into a monoid. And I won't ask, is it a monoid? Because of course it makes no sense to ask these kind of questions. But I will ask something like, could we say that this hotel booking from this day to this day plus this other booking would be equal to this overall booking? And the answer is probably yes. And you know for yourself that yes, you could model that this way, literally, as a monoid. Also, every experience from other domains, you worked in insurance and now in finance, you can reuse part of what you learned. So an example of thing that you can reuse is that businesses don't want all powers into the same hands. That's something everybody wants. So this is an example that is famously known as segregation of duties. You've heard this word before? You don't want the same person to be able to do everything. And this is something that is very common in many, many domains. So what you could ask is, in the conversation, oh, I'm surprised there. I was expecting that no one could do the full chain. And, oh, OK, it was, yeah, my bad. You found something. You spot something. You, the developer. Another example, a common one, is businesses don't like to hard delete stuff. They want audit. They want to be able to track everything afterward. So if you are asked to delete, you can challenge them again. And by challenging, also, you are more like on an equal footing with the people you're talking to. And it turns out we don't hard delete, in fact, sure. For faster discovery, all these things help for faster discovery. And another technique is to look for invariants. This is part of the official domain-driven design training and content. And one way to ask that is, Liz would say, is there any other outcome that is of interest? usually I have something. Let's take an example like here. We are organizing conference, and we are discussing how to manage the cash, the money aspect. And so you are discussing budget. So your assumption so far, you've been talking about ticketing. And so your assumption is that the budget is the sum of all tickets. And you ask that. That's obvious. It's an obvious thing, but still I'm asking. OK, yes. Is it always the case? Would it be a case where it would not be true? That's a magic question. That's a magic question to discover new stuff. Oh, well, yes. Some attendees do not pay, some donate money, some donate more, and we have sponsors to win. We knew about tickets, but we just found out about 3 new concepts that we'll have to deal with sooner or later. That's win. You know, but there is more. You've heard about bounded context before, and there are some heuristics to help spot them earlier. Because they often come in common relationships. One example is that typically you often have a difference between the way you would model what you expect versus what actually happens, the plan versus the execution, the tracking. So this would suggest 2 bounded contexts, or 2 models at least. Another example would be that in many companies, there are people who want to make as much money as possible, and you have people who tries to prevent the former to kill the company by taking too much risk, like traders and the risk officers. That's a very common thing in many companies, and actually the companies are built with this antagonism. So one magic question you could ask too would be that, who could be against this feature? Oh, the risk department. That's a nice thing to do, to find out. And by finding that, you may discover potential bounded context early. Another quick idea is if you have more than one domain expert, what happens? You know, the plural of domain experts usually is confusion. But on the plus side, it's also a suggestion that you may have different bounded contexts. If you can't manage to make them all agree on something common, maybe it's just not possible to share something common. Maybe you need just to live into different models. Yet another example is look at the shape of things. What I call the shape is like in CS, we call is something, is it a record versus a collection or a tree or a graph by increasing complexity? And this is something that is often implicit in your conversations. For instance, you as a developer, we like graphs a lot, and we are suspecting, we are thinking, we are under assumption that we live in the graph domain right now. But actually, it's not the case. Or it's the case for one perspective. And the other guy we are talking to is saying, like, I don't get it. Well, no cycle, that don't make any sense. There is no cycle, because in their mind, the world is more like tree-like structure. It won't just work. Somebody has to change their mind, or we have different models in different bounded contexts. So that's another trick. And I got some bonus tips too. Like, it's not just about what we say. It's also the way we say it. Every hesitation, all these things. Let's take an example. I was in a matching system in finance, a trading system. And for matching, we had to decide how do we sort stuff. Shall we sort by date or by price? And I would say by date. So I take note, and I take note that the answer is not convincing. And this means that I expect them to change their mind. It will happen more than once. So I will, in this case, I would, and I did, provision directly a comparator to hedge myself against this change. It will not be a problem if they change their mind. I'm ready for that. Actually, embrace change, as they said. There's a little bit of speculation there, but I know the reason. And of course, what you see, in this case, you just turn hesitation into a design decision. That's a funny thing to do. We are just translating the domain in all its aspects into our software. Logistics also has some importance in the picture. Like, it helps a lot to carry with you or to have on the meeting room a lot of printouts, diagrams, screenshots, just to help finger point. I'm talking about that, or I'm talking about that here. And this will help your communications big time. I have some colleagues carrying always screenshots with them everywhere, just to help discussion. And it makes a difference if you do your conversations here or there. Which one do you prefer? And if you don't have the right place, this place is magic. The water cooler, the coffee machine is a magic place. Magic wonders happen there. Also, another trick: if you are not too many, you can sit on the same side of the table, which means that you can sketch together. And this is important because this way you can use all these domain-specific notations that many domains have. You know, if you work in finance, we usually sketch cash flows over time like that, with arrows over time. It's standard notation. If you're in music, you have a lot of notations. If you are in mechanics, you also have these cinematics. All these things, they help a lot. Share, exchange information. Even in supply chain management, they have these diagrams that I don't understand yet, but if I was working in this field, I would quickly learn that because it would be important for me. And even for spaceship programs, for Brian, you also have notations. And even for dancing, you have notations. All right, so now it's time for closing. So in closing, buy my book. I'm sorry. All right, so yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, but really buy it. And then, no, for real, in closing, everything we just said, we just saw are just examples. So it's up to you to create your own toolbox and your own set of techniques and heuristics. But you have to beware of some cliches that don't work. Like, you could say that, and it's not a good thing. Just tell me what I need to do. No, it's not. It's not a good attitude. It will not be efficient. Or, I'm an architect, I will impress everyone with my technical brilliance. Who's like that? Oh, I see one hand. Hey, thank you. Yeah. But the biggest problem, if we go the way I've been talking, you may think that you are smarter than the business guys. And it may well be the case. But the problem is that it won't work unless you respect what I call the golden rule. Make it clear that domain experts are always safe with you. Safe, safe, safe. You won't steal their job. You won't take their shoes. You stay in your position anyway. You can do their job, but we are still on our roles. That's very important. And which means that every time, always, 100%, no exception, I'll always ask for validation of everything, every decision, every understanding of the business. It makes no sense to be smarter, because at the end of the day, we all have to agree and understand what's written on the spec flow or Cucumber or whatever. So at this point, I hope that you're convinced that talking to domain expert is a thing. And it's time for confidence. I have a secret to tell you anyway. It's usually, in my experience, is a bit biased because I usually choose projects for their domain-driven design potential. And which means that rich domains and software that matters, and also with respect to people involved in the project. So people with close relationship is possible, and clear vision. Clear vision is easy. You ask people, what is the project meant for? And if they don't answer quickly, there is no clear vision. So this afternoon, or in today at least, Jeff Class will be giving his talk, and during his talk, there was this quote I loved. People usually say that, often say that, and I don't agree at all. Dude, you are just a programmer. No, we are not just a programmer. Or we are just a programmer, but doing all that. So you've seen I suggested that you propose stuff as a tactic to help conversations, but we can go further. We can propose stuff also to suggest new valuable features to our domain experts. You know, good models have predictive power. Your Pond's definition could have predicted how it should behave for tardigrades, if it was a good one. So from your model, you could, your code as a model could suggest features, and these features can be very valuable for the business. And here we are moving from DDD and software to support an existing business into challenging the business to go further and to do things that actually it's not just business anymore, it's business and software. It's software augmented system, software augmented domains and business. The problem is that this is not possible as long as you keep the people who know what to do and the people who do it separated in different teams, in different rooms. And Michael Feeder has a nice paper talking about that recently. You could be interested in it. So it all points to, at the end, if we follow this road, that's the end of the IT department, basically. We want to kill this separation between IT and business. We would like to move into teams, complete teams, where the team is mixed. You have people doing business, and you have software people helping and doing business too, and doing software mixed with business, and all these things. Of course, in your company, you may not be ready for that, so you can start with something temporarily like that, like putting everyone on the same room and doing these fantastic techniques called event storming, for instance. Thanks, Alberto and Matthias, for these techniques. And another technique that can help also put people together in the same room talking about business and code at the same time, of course, is mob programming. Everybody, including the business, on the same task, on the same screen, on the same computer at the same time. And some do that all the time, like Hoodiesville in San Diego. And here, for instance, that's the picture they put on their website, the mob programming website. And if you just replace the product owner by the domain expert, you are in the ideal situation to do wonders. And this way, we'll be very happy and have successful companies like this. And this dog will be happy like these dogs. You want that I do it again? Thank you very much. I think we have some time for questions now.
So I can hear that you're French, just like me.
Yeah.
And I guess you've been working on a project with French people speaking French.
And we do everything in English.
Yes, because for some reason you don't want to code in French. So how do you handle this difference? Who is translating the domain expert French terms into English?
That's a question I get all the time, and I still don't have an answer for people working in French. So every time in finance, every time I work mostly in finance, and in finance, everything is in English everywhere by writing. And even when we speak, it's half English, half French. And our ubiquitous language is 100% English. And I've never been happy with mixing English and French within the same language. It's so artificial and weird. I hate that. But some customers have to do that, and the result is not pretty. That's true. So I don't think there's a solution. We have to stick. The easiest solution by far is to standardize to English for all the ubiquitous language. You may have meeting in French, but you will use the word trade, deal in your French.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. You talked a lot about writing down notes and literally writing every what the domain expert said word by word. And now,
no, we don't have time to write everything, actually.
To capture the terms.
Yeah.
My question is, suppose you don't have your domain expert on the site every day, but once every 2 weeks or something for half an hour, which is sometimes rarity. Then writing notes, literally kills the conversation. So you need to do something about it if you take a lot of time to write your notes. My question is, have you experience or opinion or other ways like recording a talk? This could hinder open talk or something?
No.
I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Recording, or it may help you, but personally, I don't like this technique. Well, I think if you only have 15 minutes every 2 weeks, no, you're out of luck, I guess. But another technique that I loved and that was initially in the talk is that if you can conclude during the session, and the example I had, for instance, we wanted to do a screen mock-up, and the discussion was on that. Okay, I talked to the business guy. Hey, wait a minute, I will fire a PowerPoint, and we'll do a mock-up by mixing bits of screenshots together. We will wait a few minutes, but actually we will save days, because the alternative is that we come back to work and we send you what we did on our own. You won't like it. We will plan another meeting, and it will back and forth between meetings. This doesn't work well. So actually, it's much faster to go to the last step, to go to the very last mile in session while we are together. That's why, by the way, proposing could help a lot. To save time, you could, if you hesitate between A, B, and C, you could describe them with some details, bring that, and then we are just choosing what we like together out of that. Maybe a technique to save time. The worst thing it would be to jump from meeting to another meeting, because you know when you plan meetings, it's very easy to go days, to lose days and weeks, especially in big companies. Thanks for the question. Did I answer? More or less, no, not really. But the recording conversations I've never used. I've never found it useful. I prefer to create more efficient steno technique. But this is up. Everyone has their own. I've shown you mine, but you may have your own. And one thing I don't know is what word I take note of and what I ignore. And this is still a mystery to me. But or it's obvious. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah.
So you said a few things, that the worst domain expert is one who worked on the previous system. That's point one.
No, whose sole expertise comes from that.
Sole expertise?
Yeah.
Okay.
If they had a former life doing something as a domain clerk or agent or in operational role, yeah, they are much more relevant. Yeah.
Okay, that kind of kills most of my question, but I'll ask it anyway.
Okay.
So does that mean that you also said that you can augment the business domain with DDD? That the value of your domain expert diminishes over time as it sort of becomes infected by the system? It becomes less pure.
I don't believe so, because of the last rule, the golden rule. They keep the responsibility to say, actually, we do work on their behalf. That's what I mean, basically. That's my point. It's still their responsibility at the end to make sure that it is valuable, it makes sense, people understand the words we use. We are not just doing our craziness, smart, crazy stuff within developers on our own. That's the key thing. I've never had this. Actually, yeah, at some point it almost happened, because I've been looking on Wikipedia and Investopedia at the beginning, and then at the beginning he gave me some specs, written specs, and I could recognize Wikipedia inside, paragraphs by paragraphs. So at this point, I could not just say it, of course. I had to respect their authority, and sometimes you have to, I will pretend he's very good, but it's hard to do it. Thanks for the question again.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Hi,
Dan.
Thanks for sharing this really, really important part of domain-driven design, of fostering a fruitful discussion with the domain experts. I think it's really centered. I'm glad you've brought it up. I'd like to pick your experience a little bit. Say you're in a situation where you have a fruitful discussion with the domain expert. And suddenly one night you reach a modeling breakthrough on your own. Suddenly realizing that, oh, now I know this could be phrased like,
Yeah.
but it's a concept that's not present in the domain expert discussion at the time. How do you break that to the domain expert side? Because you both could benefit of it, and if we can take this gem forward, it will be truly valuable. How do you handle that kind of situations?
But it's currently happening right now with one of my customers, and I believe I won't be able to exploit fully an opportunity to refactor because there are too many people involved in everything. And just by this number, people, experts, managers, developers are very small part of the full number. And some understood. Right now, I'm up to 3 to 4 people who understood the idea. And I'm not sure I will be able to turn it into practice. So reality is like it is. And what I've seen also is that smart ideas, I just have the courage to give them up. They would be very smart, very nice. We could cut maybe the code in half or something in one area. Still, if we are the only one to understand them, it makes no sense. They are zero value. They are zero value at all. You mean it's like an intelligence cap or something, and a language cap. If not everyone can understand what's happening, including business people, then it does not exist. It's something that, so actually the dumbest person will limit the group, of course. But so that what it shows us is that we should try to train and prepare and invest in training sessions and explanation sessions and all these things, but still we have to keep it reasonable. We won't do the smartest thing ever. And honestly, I think that's a good thing anyway, because the smartest models are sophisticated, and right now they are totally optimized for your examples, but the next example may break it anyway. And so this, yeah, beware anyway. But that's a good question. I totally resonate with that. One last question or coffee time? Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe I'm a developer, and in a lot of companies, you have a domain expert. In between the developer and the domain expert, you have a functional analyst okay. Sometimes. So, and they write functional analysis documents. So how do you see the developer's position in this situation? Or, because a lot of things you talked about, a developer in this situation.
So I think you may be lucky enough that that the specs always come too late. Is it the case?
Well, yeah, you have a written document.
Yes, and it comes. You've been coding without writing this document or not?
Well, no, but
No?
a lot of these discussions that you talk about, you can't have anymore because it's already written in stone. And
Okay, so if this process is really followed, then I guess you're stuck. What could be nice is that if this was the process we pretend to do, and that the document always comes so late that you had to start working before. Because in this case, you may be already in what I suggest, which means that actually the knowledge exchange goes through conversations indeed. And usually in this setting, people don't like it. They say like, it's not right, we don't do things right, we talk like that in the corridors or quickly instead of waiting for the specs that should be done earlier. And I say, no, it's perfect, keep on that. Actually, until we just don't care about the specs at the end. And if you start BDD, by the way, you can suggest quickly that you will produce the specs during the build as a PDF document or an interactive website. And you don't need this piece of paper at the beginning. Actually, the conversations are much, much more efficient and valuable. So you may hack this process like that. If it works perfectly right now, if it's really followed, I'm afraid you're stuck, you're trapped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
time is up. So I guess it's time for coffee, and I remain available for any questions and follow-up close to the stage or around the coffee area. Thank you very much.